So there's just something magical about Disney, right? Let's take a look at 2024 holiday cruises from Fort Lauderdale in this part 1 of my Disney MERYTIME holiday cruise itinerary series. Welcome to This is the Cruise. I'm Clint, and this is the channel where we look at upcoming cruise itineraries and try to figure out if this is the cruise for you. I have a fun one for you today. We're looking at Disney cruise itineraries, and I thought, what better way to look at these itineraries than think about what would we do next year? I'm filming this before the holidays in 2023, and what itineraries are out there? What's available? So in part 1, like I said, we're looking at Fort Lauderdale. In part 2, we're actually going to look at cruises from Galveston. In part 3, from Sydney and Auckland. And in part 4, from Port Canaveral, aka Orlando, aka the mothership, or mother port, as it were. And then in part 5, I'm going to recap and look at which itineraries were best across all of the ports and lay it all out for you. All right, so first, like and subscribe, hit that notification bell. It really helps me out. I really appreciate it. Helps me keep making content for you. Something I love to do. Let's get started. So no one really does the quality of entertainment mixed with magic and overall experience for all ages like Disney. From a cruise perspective, it's a premium cruise line experience. And if we're being honest, it's priced closer to luxury lines. But it is Disney, and a lot of luxury lines don't let kids on board, first off, let alone an entire ship that's filled with so much wonder. If you've been to a Disney theme park, you know what I'm talking about, right? They're really, really good at paying attention to their guests. All cruises generally go out of their way to meet the needs of their passengers, right? We know this, that's why we cruise. But Disney goes out of their way to meet needs you didn't even know you had. We were visiting Disney World a few years ago, and as we were walking around, it was my family of 4, we were all wearing Star Wars t-shirts. We're Star Wars fans. You know, my kids and my wife and I were having a great time walking around, went to the cantina when a Disney cast member came up to us and said, "Hey, do you guys want to get your pictures taken?" I'm like, we didn't want to wait in line. He said, "I noticed you all had Star Wars shirts on. Just come on up. You can come right to the front of the line and we'll take some quick pictures for you." I mean, we weren't expecting it. We didn't need to do it. In fact, we thought we wouldn't do it. But it was one of those memories where they saw us and thought, wouldn't it be great if we got you next to Kylo Ren, got your pictures taken. And it was really special. And that's what I mean. They just go out of their way and they do it above and beyond. No cruise line really can lay claim to that unless you get into that luxury ultra premium line and are experiencing service that you didn't know existed. But the moment you experience it, you begin to expect it, whereas Disney is really good at meeting those needs that you never expected and didn't even know you had. My hat's off to them. So do you have a special Disney story? If so, let me know in the comments below. Where has Disney really gone and met needs you didn't know that you even had and created something special for you? I know you're out there. Okay, so as if you've ever seen my videos before, you know that I sort of set a criteria. Otherwise, we're going to be looking at every cruise that's available, and that's just too much. So what I'm doing for this video is I'm saying any Disney cruise between December 20th and January 5th, and from part 1 leaving from Fort Lauderdale. This is really thinking, okay, I have kids, they're getting out of school, this is sort of when the holiday break is going to be, and it fits it in there. We're not fans of taking kids out of school. My wife and I really didn't take our kids out of school for special family vacations. We thought they're in school. This is the season of life for school. So we have to fit it in those time ranges. And that's what I'm doing here. Holiday itineraries on Disney really start towards the end of November, kind of after, in the US, after Thanksgiving, and cruises really begin to feature the Disney MERYTIME theme, which runs all the way through itineraries that leave on Christmas Day. Interestingly, itineraries that start on the 26th or later are no longer holiday themed. I am including those. Just know that after Christmas, the very merry time is over. It's back to the grind. Well, I guess it's back to the cruise grind, but you're on vacation, so, it's not a bad grind. So, as I mentioned, we're looking at Fort Lauderdale, and if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know that I'm actually a fan of the Fort Lauderdale cruise port. It's right by the airport, and if you're traveling in from outside of Florida in particular and flying in, it's so easy to go from the airport, hop in a ride share or a taxi, and just go to the cruise. Okay, so let's look at the places where we could potentially go on these itineraries from Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale is a great place. You can see the airport right there, and you can see how close the airport is to the cruise port. The most famous stop that Disney has on offer is Castaway Cay. It is their private island. It's their first private island, and they have been improving it and improving it. It has great reviews, and people seem to love it. The next place that you could potentially go that we'll be looking at is Disney's Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point. This is an interesting one because it's a brand new private island. It's really just a peninsula that is part of the Bahamas, and there's some great things they're doing with this that I really like. It's not finished yet, so they're still working on it, but they're also thinking about making it more immersive into the Bahamian culture, which is something that if you've watched any of my other videos, the enrichment factor is a big part of why we cruise. It's great to relax. It's great to do something adventurous. It's also great to immerse yourself in a local culture that's different from your own. Disney's Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point is one of the opportunities that Disney is creating to make that more accessible. Likewise, Disney also stops at Nassau Bahamas, and this one is not a private island. Many cruise lines stop here. It's one of the more popular cruise lines in the world. And then finally, another very popular cruise port is Cozumel, Mexico. And Cozumel, again, lots of things to do here. This is probably the outlier of these stops because it's in Mexico, not in the Caribbean. And it's on the other side of the Gulf of Mexico, which is an interesting sort of place to go from Fort Lauderdale, given where all the other stops are. So that's where we could potentially go from Fort Lauderdale. Okay, so let's do a quick run through of the itineraries. I mentioned that we're looking at December 20th through January 5th. It's important to know that some of these itineraries do start earlier, as early as late November. And it's also important to note that they get more expensive the later in the year you go. It's actually more expensive to cruise after Christmas than it is to cruise before Christmas. It's more expensive to cruise just before Christmas than it is early December. So if you don't have kids in school, try to book these itineraries earlier in the season and you'll be able to maximize your dollar there. However, I just picked ones that fall within that date range. With that being said, there are no 3-night itineraries from Fort Lauderdale in that date range. There are 4-night itineraries, and the first one we'll look at is the 4-night Bahamian cruise from Fort Lauderdale. It leaves on December 26th through December 30th. It's on the Disney Dream. It goes from Fort Lauderdale, you have a sea day, then you go to Disney's Lookout Cay at Lighthouse Point, that new stop for Disney, and then you go to Nassau, and then you come back. So for Clint's cruisability score, this itinerary for variety gets a 2, for repeatability gets a 4.5, for adventure it gets a 5, for enrichment a 4. We have 2 stops that are in the Bahamas designed to get you more into the local culture, which is great. For relaxation, a 6. Both of the stops offer great relaxation opportunities. The ship, according to Cruise Critic, scores a 4 out of 5. And then it gets a novelty bonus. No other lines do this itinerary, and this is somewhat desirable, so it gets a novelty bonus of 3. It brings us to a total of 28.5. That's our 4-night itinerary. Disney does offer a couple of 5-night itineraries, Again, from Fort Lauderdale, there's a 5-night Bahamian cruise leaving on December 16th through the 21st and on December 30th through January 4th. Obviously, the first one will have the very MERYTIME theme running, and the one after Christmas will not. This one is on the Disney Dream again. It leaves from Fort Lauderdale, goes to Nassau, then it goes to Lookout Key, then it goes to Castaway Key, then you have a sea day coming back. I like this itinerary. It's nice. You have a great port to sea day ratio. It's enough stops to feel like you really kind of got away, but you have a sea day to relax, enjoy the ship on your way back, so it's not so hectic. For Clint's cruisability score, this one gets a variety of 2, a repeatability of 5.5, enrichment of 3.25, relaxation of 6.5, a ship score again of 4 based on Cruise Critics rating, and then a novelty bonus again of 3. That's a total of 29.75. There's another 5-night itinerary that leaves on December 21st through the 26th. This one is a true Christmas cruise, right? Because it goes over Christmas Day. You leave from Fort Lauderdale, you have a day at sea as you cruise to Cozumel, then you have a day at sea as you cruise to Castaway Key, and then you cruise back to Fort Lauderdale. Again, this is on the Disney Dream. It gets a Clint's cruisability score variety of 2.5. We're getting that extra country by going to Mexico along with the Bahamas, which is nice. The sea day to port stop ratio isn't great, so it does get a hit there. Repeatability is 5.5, adventure is a 6, enrichment is only a 3, relaxation is a 6 though, again the ship score 4, and a novelty bonus of 3. This gives us a total of 30 points. Okay, so what is the cruise, right? We've now looked at all the Fort Lauderdale offerings next year during the holiday break from Disney. My pick is the Disney 5-night Bahamian cruise from Fort Lauderdale on December 16th. When I looked at this was $3,000 cheaper for a family of 4 doing it December 16th versus December 30th. So if you can make that window work, that's a great one to do. You'll notice that this scored a 1/4 point less than the itinerary that goes to Cozumel. It just has a better, you have 3 ports rather than 2 ports. I like the idea of getting off the ship and just experiencing more islands that way. So I would pick this one if I was going on either of these. However, the one that goes to Cozumel technically does score a 1/4 point higher. So I don't think you can go wrong either way. So that's it from cruises from Fort Lauderdale. They're all in the Disney Dream. What did you think? Were any of these the cruise for you? Are you curious about booking one? Let me know in the comments below. They are a bit pricey, but it's Disney, right? It's that magic, and nobody does magic like Disney. So make sure to like and subscribe. Then you won't miss part 2 from Galveston, part 3 from the Australian region, part 4 from Port Canaveral, and then I'll do my recap in part 5. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.